It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're watching God, Sex, and Love. Tonight, I'm chatting with Mr. Marquise Thompson. He is the author of New Goat, and I think this is going to be an awesome conversation. So, stay tuned. That's right. Welcome back to God, Sex, and Love. I'm here with Mr. Marquise Thompson, and I want to say hello.
Hello, Miracle. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome to God, Sex, and Love.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate you reaching out. I understand that you are a fellow author.
Yes, I'm the author of a novel titled New Goat, A Black Man's Journey to Greatness in the Hell That Is America. I released it in May 25th of 2021. So it's been out almost a year now.
Okay. Well, happy anniversary then.
Appreciate it.
That's awesome. So is this your first novel?
No, this is actually my second novel. I wrote my first novel back in 2005 and released it in 2006. So I took like this 15-year hiatus. I started working on New Goat probably like in 2017. It was just like a multitude of events going on, ranging from police brutality and social issues arising in America. They kind of inspired me to pick up the pen again. So I was able to finally complete the novel in late 2020. I want to say like in December 2020, my editor wrapped up her work, and then I ultimately put out the novel in May of 2021.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on all of that. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you're from and maybe even your background of writing.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm originally from Gastonia, North Carolina. It's like 20 minutes outside of Charlotte, so pretty close to Charlotte. So I grew up there, stayed there my whole life until I went off to college at to North Carolina State University, where I received a degree in history. So that's where my writing background comes from. I've always taken a deep interest in history because I think the past helps us to understand the present. And ultimately, I think God wants us to use the past and the present to change the future. So writing is kind of like a gift I've had since like elementary. Teachers would notice that I was pretty creative with my pen and putting my thoughts together. And I've always been kind of like a bold author, willing to take on topics that other individuals want, or where we typically, for whatever reason, it could be our careers or the public, we take like a filtered approach as Black men and women as far as expressing our issues with, systemic racism and things of that manner. I just, I have to, whatever's in my heart, that's what I write. And it's not to offend people, but it's to speak the truth for our culture.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that about you and everything like that. So I'm interested in about the title. I know that everybody talks about titles, and I'm sure you probably heard it before, but it definitely stands out as one of those, standout titles and everything like that. So what was the inspiration behind that title?
Yeah, so like the word new goat, I'm a big sports fanatic. So when you think about like the greats like Muhammad Ali, when you think about boxing, basketball, LeBron James, the Michael Jordans, Magic Johnson, you think about football, Lawrence Taylor, just people that were really exceptional at that craft. I was like, how can I come up with a word that kind of converges like greatness with knowledge of self? So you think about GOAT, people refer to whoever the greatest of all time is as GOAT. But over time, goat has become like kind of bastardized. Like if you see like when it could be an artist drop one album and then all of their fans are putting the goat emoji up under their Instagram post saying they're the best to ever do it, but they've only put out like one project. I was like, no, we need to just kind of eradicate the word goat. I need a new term for individuals that achieve something that seems impossible. So it's kind of the convergence of like knowledge of self with greatness, and it's achieving something that doesn't seem possible. So it's like this combination of a few different things. So that's how I actually came up with the word. I invented it. I was bringing knowledge of self together with greatness, and so hopefully it's a word that starts to really resonate with people and encourages them to become the best version of themselves.
Awesome. Sounds good. So, wouldn't tell me a little bit about the book itself?
Yeah, so the book, if I had to sum it up, Miracle, basically you have this undefeated lawyer on Judgment Day who makes a compelling argument to God that Black men deserve to spend eternity in heaven for surviving the hell that is America. So that's the book in like a nutshell. But basically, you kind of get this retro view of the lawyer's life. His name is Hassan, and he grows up in a neighborhood called Treeport. And Treeport, a very interesting community, a lot of violence, but also a lot of brilliance in the community. So it's a community that's kind of torn between doing what's right and doing what's wrong. And so just based on like life lessons he's learned from his neighborhood, his parents, and the violence that's in the community, everything is kind of pushing him to become the best version of himself. And as he's on this journey, you get to examine his thoughts on love, relationships, his spirituality comes into question. So you see like all of these things kind of converging, and ultimately he has to make some important decisions, and that kind of dictates whether or not he succeeds in becoming the new GOAT. Does he become the best version of himself, or does he fall victim to, the systemic oppression we face, the violence in this community, all of these different factors? So you get to experience it, but it feels like it's real time, because I use this very creative approach with writing where I incorporate like real stories into like the writing. Like, so things that resonate with our community from the headlines, whether it be like Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, you get to see like that stuff gets pulled into the story, even though it's fiction. And then I draw inspiration, from my real life too, like certain stuff that I really don't talk about in depth, it gets to come out like in my writing. So like writing, in a lot of ways is therapeutic for me.
Mm. You know what, you took words out of my mouth. Something I usually say as well, that over the years I would keep diaries and all that type of stuff, and same reason. Obviously that has helped me to, be able to write some things as well, do it off to the author, off to the author.
Indeed.
But hey, I definitely like commend people that can really, really go in depth and create like a whole story. Like I've done it with children's books thus far. Um, I haven't really tapped into it to do like a full novel. So hats off to you, man, because I know that is a lot to, really take on a character and create their whole story word by word. So yeah, man, I have great appreciation for, fellow artisans. Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, writing can be challenging, especially kind of immersing yourself into like the characters and things of that nature. Yeah.
Hmm, hmm. So I know you use a lot of like real things as well as, I'm sure some fiction obviously as well and everything like that. So how do you find balance with that in regards to like, I mean, was this your way of helping you to kind of process what you were seeing in real life, or?
Yeah, that's a incredible way of putting it. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It was my way of processing what we were seeing play out in real time, ranging from the politics, the economic, pressure that people feel. So like finding that balance is kind of interesting because, you know, I think when people feel like something is preachy, they're turned off by it. But
Mm,
sometimes a message that we need to hear has a little preaching to it, right? Like
mm,
at times I'm talking to myself, like in the book, like you need to be the best husband you can be, the best father you can be, but it's not like me outright saying it like that. It comes through the character's actions and their words between, exchanges between so many Black fathers and sons in the novel. But yeah, that balance, it's tough to find it sometimes, but
mm,
I feel like I struck a really good balance with my latest novel where you get the entertainment component, but there's gems littered throughout it. It's not preachy, but there's a message in the entertainment.
yeah, I mean, that's edutainment, ain't no wrong with
Absolutely. I like that
that.
word, entertainment.
Yeah, edutainment. As you were talking, I kind of was like, well, goodness, the question just went away from my mind. My apologies about that. But basically, well, so the whole balance between the real life versus the novel, and using this obviously to find that balance. Um, oh, I hope that question comes back to my mind, 'cause my apologies for that. But I guess I was thinking myself was like, a lot of times, well, one of the things you said just resonated with me in regards to saying like, that you were just kind of talking to yourself in the moments when it comes to the book and whatnot, kind of maybe even preaching to the choir, preaching to yourself about maybe things that you should do in real life or whatever case is, right? Um, and I think one of the things that I've experienced since I've been doing this journey of GSL and doing like daily inspiration and my Bible study and all this stuff is that I see that there's a lot of like things that are like personal, right? There's a lot of like personal things that we need to work on and do if we truly want to see change, right? And I'm kind of curious to see what that would even look like to that if like obviously a group of people would have to you know truly take the time to say that, okay, I'm going to be intentional about changing myself in order to ultimately change the world. If that makes any sense. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. That's like a central theme in the novel. It's to hold ourselves accountable. Like in a lot of ways, what we see in society, it's like an indictment on us as individuals for not taking care of the community. So like
Mhm.
we get outraged at the results, right? But how involved are we with cultivating a better environment? And
Mm.
so yeah, Miracle. That's spot on. Like, so that's where the preaching to myself comes in. Like, you can't just be a person that's outspoken. Where are your actions? Am I being deliberate in the way that I'm teaching my son how to treat people? You know, am I being deliberate in the way like that I'm thinking about like planning for his economic future? You
Mhm.
know, so all of those different elements, like it's like a myriad of gems that are lit through the book that pertain to self-improvement, and it kind of, if I had to put them on tiers, you have the spiritual component, you have the mental health component, and then you have the economic component, and it's all about like holding ourselves accountable on those fronts so we can become the best version of ourselves so we then can be a blessing to the community.
Yes, yes, man. I tell you, what, like everything you just said right now, we could just probably even go we could wrap this up. 'Cause I mean, hopefully, people heard that because I think that's one thing that, at least in my little observation of life, is like one of the main issues. It's like you say, we'll focus more so on the result, and it's like, well, what about the actions that got us to these results? And what can we do personally in our own lives with our own family and whatnot? Like you say, taking that accountability with you being the father to your son and teaching him, and same with me and my son and his father and him. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I guess on one hand, maybe we struggle as humans about this idea, like, I guess we want to get it all done in one thing, or one time or quick or something. And I guess the long term thing is, yeah, like yourself, your family, your community, and it goes from there. Like that's what I'm understanding. But I mean, why do you think is that difficult? Or do we make it difficult? Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I do think it is difficult, but I do think, to your point, we make it difficult too. Because it's like I, I think here in America, success is like very individualized, right? So a lot of us, whenever we start to achieve what we deem to be success, we start to buy into this narrative that I did it by myself. I didn't have anybody, and that type of thing, right? And that feeds selfishness, in my opinion, you
Yeah.
know, because a lot of people, do start lower on the rung than others, right? And they may have done a lot of heavy lifting that made them feel like they did it by themselves. But no, at some point you had a praying grandmother, a mom, or someone that was advocating for you, and you can't forget those important pieces that play a role as achieve what we think is success. But like, to me, it's like we're on a journey to kind of understand like what joy really is, right? Because like I think a lot of times we think it's having the ideal career, it's money, and sure those things are important, right? But there's a deeper level of happiness, which I would say is actually joy that comes from within.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of my slogans is the journey to greatness begins within. And so that's like a constant reminder to myself, like, no, it's like internal things that you have to work on.
Mhm.
And then like the extra stuff, that's all good and well, but who are you within?
Exactly. Because that, I mean, obviously we see the results of individuals that quote unquote have it all, but then they ultimately lose it all as well. And not just saying lose it all in regards to the material things they have, but lose it all mentally, but lose it all in regards to their life.
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, I mean, and again, I mean, there's a lot of things that I guess that is a factor to what we see as success, what we see as joy or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think that's something that I've had to kind of, come to terms with as well. I guess my adult life and stuff. It's like, okay, at some point I had to look at it and say to myself, okay, is it that what do I think is successful? Because on one hand, for example, with me, my background is in performing arts and theater and
Hmm.
whatnot. And yeah, okay, I could, it would be great to be in major movies and all of this stuff, but I think I'm successful just because I can perform for a living. Like that's a blessing to be able to use my gift and perform for a living, regardless of if it's in a major movie or not. Like it could be in, well, now I do my own stuff, my own shows and stuff like that. But at one point I was kind of doing, for example, working with different companies or whatever. Like maybe I would be that type of person that go to the school to perform for kids and stuff. Like, and for me that was like full circle, because I remember being that kid in the audience watching somebody perform, and now I can be that person to some other child and inspire them just by them seeing me do the things that I'm doing, for example. And so is that success? Am I cool with that, or what? And those are things that I had to debate about over the years and stuff. And I'm getting to the point now where even this whole thing, I know I say it a lot on GSL, or I say it a lot on the Juice, which is the daily inspiration situation, that I'm like, hey man, I'm in a place where I'm finally cool and content mentally with where I'm at. I'm like, Lord, if you just want me to do this and keep making stuff and keep making my shows and books and this and whatever, I, I'm cool. I'm finally in a place of, contentment. And that took me a while to get there. It took me a while to be okay with, I guess, technically where God wanted me to be or whatever. And so, um, but I mean, I guess again, there's a balance with all of that, and um, man, I mean, I'm sure we could go on and on because again, it's just one of those things when I observe, different people, and I hate to lump us up, and be like, our community or whatever, because it's a human thing. I think it's across the board with everybody. I think different issues, but so your character, right? He's advocating. I guess speaking of that, he's advocating on the behalf of Black men in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. So he is advocating on black men, on the behalf of black men in particular, but it's for the community as a whole. Like, one of the things I want to do with the second novel is like correct some of the leaning or some of the perspectives that I put out there in my first book. The first book was really good and creative, but it also it leaned a little bit to like bootstrap rhetoric and maybe tilted a little bit to some stereotypes, like about like how like when we think about like systemic issues, a lot of times we just think of like the easy out, like what's the easy thing to point to without thinking about it in a nuanced manner. So like in this novel, I'm much older. When I wrote my first book, I was like in my super early 20s, so now I'm like a seasoned writer who I feel like I was able to achieve the balance of delivering a message, but also like it's like examining things in an unfiltered manner when it comes to like the systemic issues, but also holding us accountable at the same time. So
Mhm.
while he is an advocate, on the behalf of black men, and you get to see strong father figures, there is no, savior coming into the community. There's no like things that diminish the storyline. Is really centered around the community. When we win, we win. When we lose, and you get to see it all in this storyline. So yeah, he's an advocate on behalf of black men, but he also, not just him, but the storyline in general is about like black men holding each other accountable, loving your neighbor as you love thyself. Like that is a central theme in the book. And I think, it's a message that we all need to hear more consistently.
You're right. You're right about that. I mean, what one thing that just stood out to me that you said in regards to, when you wrote the book in your younger years, or a different book in your younger years, and you kind of, I mean, I guess maybe this was a redeeming book for that or whatever the case is. That's okay, because when you think about it, I mean, obviously, as you are getting older, you're getting wiser, and all, and as you should, So I mean, I'm sure there's probably a lot of things you look at differently now versus back then. And, same with me and any other person, or hopefully, people that are, growing mentally and whatnot. But yeah, I think, and that'll be a good thing for people to see, I think, and to hopefully get both books and you know uh let marinate as they read in both of them, that okay, this is a man's perspective, a man's growing in your own right and whatnot. So congratulations for that, because some people don't do that.
Yeah,
Bro.
yeah. Thank you, Miracle. Yeah, I hope people can see the growth. And I'm very proud of the first book. It's just, yeah, I'm more of a seasoned veteran, and I understand like the power of words. And to really, if
Mm,
you're proposing solutions, think about like what you're saying, and understanding like really what I'm putting out there. So you get to see like very nuanced perspectives in the goat.
man, look, you out here dropping gems on today, right? And I hope that people look at you. I really do. Man, I'm good to see here. I go again. It's something you said a second ago. I want to touch on with no words, man. He like, man, this girl. Why did I come to this show?
No, I'm enjoying the conversation. I think I can see like you said you have the performing arts background. I think it's pretty apparent, like pretty comfortable on camera. Like camera, I'm like I don't know. I'm supposed to be looking. I don't even know. Like, yeah.
Oh, it's all good. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, and the funny thing is, I know we were kind of talking earlier about another gentleman I interviewed, and that was the first time I actually pulled out some notes. But that was the only time that I pulled out notes in this whole scenario, and it's only because I had to ask specific questions what somebody else wrote. So everything usually is just conversational. So, and that's why I keep having these moments. So my apologies for that.
No
But,
apologies needed. It's a very
yeah.
organic and real conversation, so I'm comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad. Because, well, speaking of that, I feel like we talk about it all the time here on GSL. But I mean, I guess I got to touch on it because, every time somebody new comes, it's like, one, I have to really, really thank you all for like seeing past the title, right? Seeing past the what we put in our mind about what this could be, right? And I guess and actually coming, or I know you said you watched some of the episodes of GSL, so thank you for that as well again. And and then I guess now that you are here, right? Like so what I know you were one of the first authors in that group. I want to say when I posted in that, hey, be on the show if you want to be, anybody that want to be. You were one of, I think, the first authors to respond this far. And like, so what was it that kind of drew you to being on GSL in particular? Could you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the title number one I thought was very interesting. So I immediately I think went to like your website to check
Mm,
out like the layout, very professional, and it pretty much laid out like what the podcast and the conversations are about. The no judgment zone, that it was Christian based. So I knew like just from my perspective, I was like the title I view it as good marketing personally. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's Christian based and no judgment zone, to me that's a lot of elements that Jesus embodied. So what's wrong with that? So
exactly.
yeah. So once I checked out your website, I was like, yeah, I definitely would like to hop on and have a conversation with her.
Well, cool, man. Like I said, I appreciate it. I appreciate you pushing through and being like, I ain't gonna, you know, I don't know what the first thing came in your head, like, oh, but I don't know about that. You went and checked it out, but I appreciate that. And I'm glad to have you on and everything like that. So don't worry, I ain't gonna put you on the spot. We ain't gotta talk about none of that. I mean, I'm assuming ain't none of that in your book, even though, well, you
No,
did mention
no,
relationship.
it's like so yeah, my book is pretty it's like it's a lot of entertainment, but nothing over the top. I
Yeah.
mean, like the violence element, I think is very real, whether it's coming from, the community itself or if it's coming from outside of the community. Like it's a true depiction of what happens, but it's not like this glorification. But yeah, it's it's a book I would say like anybody that's in their teens could read on up. Has some big words in it occasionally, but
Yeah.
yeah, nothing too crazy in the novel other than the creativity.
Yeah, I mean, that's good because even if it has words that they gotta go to find, that's good. Go pull out your dictionaries, y'all. Go, if you don't know something, go find out what it means. Um, but yeah, well, I truly, truly appreciate you in this conversation and everything like that, and you sharing about the book. Are there any other things in the works? He's like, let me just get this book out, Miracle Golly.
It's crazy that you asked that, Miracle, because like after the 15-year hiatus between the first and second novel, I was like, this is it. Like the part of the marketing was this was the final book, which I felt adamant about. But I got the writing book, and there's one more final book called New Goat 2. So it's pretty much written. But yeah, and interesting enough, one of the main characters, he's actually a preacher. So yeah, it's set in the same neighborhood as my first two books. So you get to see things come like really, really full circle in this real creative manner. But I'm not gonna tell people when I'm gonna put that out because I'm still marketing this first book. But yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Cool. Okay, so I don't know if I realized it. So you're saying all of your books thus far is happening in the same neighborhood, but is it like different people in the neighborhood?
That's a great question. So yeah, so the first book is centered in a community called Shreveport, and the second book is centered there. So you have like Prince, who's in the first book, is like the secondary primary character. He appears in the second book, New Goat, and he's like if it was acting, screen time would be kind of split between Hassan, who's the primary character, and Prince as like the what's it called, like when you in a movie and you get the supporting like you get the Oscar for supporting actor. That. Yep. And in this storyline there's also a very dope Black woman in the book called T, or her real name is Tasha. So I think Black women in particular will really enjoy her character. Very sharp and expressive and stands up for what's right. I think she's like one of the really central characters in the novel that people can relate to. But yep, so it's centered all in the same community, and you get to see characters from the first novel in the second book. And then in the third book, I'm introducing a new character, but some of the people that survived from the second book, they're present in the third book.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Look, don't make us come out with a movie now. Wait a minute. I need to get my auditions together.
Yeah. You need to audition for like Tasha or like the mom or somebody. I feel like it should be a movie. So maybe you just spoke that into the universe. Maybe God was using you as a vessel to put that out there.
Look, like collaborations. Look what God is doing. But I don't put myself in your movie. You already like woman.
Look, if the movie happens, since you spoke it into the universe, look, you got to roll.
Woo! Everybody hear that? Everybody what you just said, y'all hear that, right? Well, hey, man, I appreciate the opportunity, man. I'm definitely, I had no problem with that. You know what I mean? Even if you want me to audition, I'll go ahead and some tape there. I'll send you my. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
No, not that I can really think of, other than I think reading is like a essential tool, and as far as like learning new things. So I encourage everybody to support like the fellow authors that's in the group that you posted in, the Black Authors Network. I think you said you write children's books, so once I hop off here, I'm going to go check out some of your children's books, and I'll be supporting. So yeah, because I have a son. I don't know what age demographic your novels or books are for, but definitely will be checking them out.
Well, cool. I appreciate that. And so where can we find you? In your website and your social?
Oh yeah, really good question. So newgoat.com, you can find me there. So I post blogs, I write different content. And then of course my novel, you can purchase signed copies on newgoat.com. On social media, I'm pretty much newgoat. So on Instagram. And then the novel, of course, is available on Amazon. So you can get the paperback or the Kindle edition.
All right. Well, I truly, truly appreciate you in this conversation. Thank you so much for coming to God, Sex, and Love. You're welcome back anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. And I look forward to coming back to the show. So definitely thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching God, Sex, and Love. And thank you to Mr. Marquise Thompson for joining us for the conversation tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed it and check out his book, the novel, New Goat. Have a good night.